You got to hear me. I'm tired of seeing people lose not because they don't have the talent, not because they don't have the heart, but because they got the wrong people in their circle. You got dream killers disguised as friends. You got folks who tell you to chill when you're supposed to be grinding. You can't be great hanging around average. If you hang around 5 lazy people, you'll be the 6th. You need people who push you, who challenge you, who make you uncomfortable enough to grow. You got to protect your energy like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. I learned it the hard way. There was a time in my life when I was grinding, I was focused, but I couldn't figure out why I kept running out of gas. I was giving everything I had to the world, but deep down, I felt empty. You know why? Because I was surrounded by people who were draining me instead of filling me. Every time I got around them, I left tired. I left doubting myself. I left questioning whether I was even built for this. And it wasn't until I stepped back and realized it wasn't me that was the problem. It was my circle. See, energy is contagious. You don't even have to say anything. You can feel it. When you walk in a room full of people who complain, who gossip, who make excuses, it changes your spirit. You start absorbing that energy without even knowing it. You think you're just hanging out, but what you're really doing is exchanging energy. And that exchange might be costing you your future. I remember sitting with some people I used to roll with back in the day, and all they wanted to talk about was what they could have done, what they would have done if life didn't get in the way. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, this is not who I want to become. Because that kind of talk, it rubs off. You spend enough time around people who quit, and you start to believe quitting is normal. There was a point where I had to make a decision. Either I stay loyal to people who keep me low, or I stay loyal to the vision that's pulling me higher. That choice wasn't easy. Some of those people had been with me from day one, but I had to be real with myself. I couldn't keep letting their energy control my destiny. I started surrounding myself with people who spoke life into me, people who believed in growth, people who saw potential even when I didn't. And once I did that, everything changed. My energy came back, my focus got sharper, my grind became consistent again. Because when your circle is right, your spirit stays right. So if you're tired of feeling drained, if you're wondering why you can't keep your fire lit, check your surroundings. Energy is contagious. Protect yours, or it'll get stolen before you even realize it's gone. Association determines destination. I learned it the hard way. I used to think I could make it no matter who I was around, that my grind alone would be enough to separate me. But listen to me carefully. The people you choose to walk with will determine how far you go. There was a time in my life when I was hanging around people who didn't want anything out of life. They were good people, but they were comfortable. They didn't have that hunger in their eyes. They didn't talk about goals. They talked about problems. And every time I left them, I felt myself settling just a little bit more. I remember back when I was homeless, sleeping in abandoned buildings, just trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted. The people I had around me back then, they weren't talking about building anything. They weren't talking about growth. We were just trying to survive day to day. And because of that, I started thinking survival was enough. But deep down, I knew I was made for more. I just couldn't see it clearly because everyone around me was stuck in the same storm. It's hard to dream big when you're surrounded by people who've given up on dreaming. It wasn't until I got around people who had vision, people who wanted to grow, to build, to lead, that I started to elevate. They didn't let me make excuses. They didn't let me settle. They held me accountable, and for the first time in my life, I saw what was possible. I realized if I keep hanging around 5 people who don't want anything, I'm going to be the 6th one. But if I get around 5 people who are chasing greatness, I'm going to become the next one too. The truth is, you can't soar with people who are comfortable crawling. You can't expect to reach the top if your circle doesn't even want to climb. And that was one of the toughest lessons I had to learn. That loyalty to my past couldn't come before loyalty to my purpose. It hurt to walk away from people I love, but staying with them would have cost me everything I was meant to be. So when I tell you association determines destination, believe me, where they're going, you're going. Choose your circle wisely because your future is traveling with them. If everybody around you is always agreeing with you, you're in trouble. You don't need people who just clap for you when you win. You need people who challenge you when you get lazy, when you stop pushing, when you start playing small. I used to surround myself with people who told me what I wanted to hear, not what I needed to hear. And for a while, I thought that was love. I thought that meant they supported me. But what I didn't realize was they were keeping me comfortable. They didn't want to upset me, so they let me settle. And that comfort almost killed my growth. I remember back when I first started speaking, man, I wasn't great. I was passionate, but I wasn't polished. I had a friend who came up to me after one event and said, "That was good, but you can do better." At first, I was offended. I thought, what you mean, do better? I just gave everything I had up there. But later that night, I thought about it. He was right. I didn't prepare like I could have. I didn't study my craft like I should have. I was relying on emotion instead of mastery. That moment shifted something in me. I realized real friends don't let you stay average. They hold a mirror to your potential, even when it hurts to look at it. There were times when I didn't want to hear the truth. Times when someone close to me said, "You say you want success, but you're not acting like it." It stung, but I needed that. Because growth doesn't come from being comfortable. Growth comes when somebody calls you out, when they make you see the gap between who you are and who you could be. If everyone in your circle keeps telling you, you're doing great, even when you're not pushing yourself, you're surrounded by comfort, not accountability. When I started surrounding myself with people who challenged me, my life changed. They didn't care about my feelings. They cared about my future. They pushed me to get up earlier, to study harder, to be consistent when I didn't feel like it. They demanded more because they saw more in me. And yeah, it was uncomfortable, but that's where transformation happens. You don't grow from comfort, you grow from being challenged. So if your circle doesn't push you, it's time to find one that will. Stop explaining your vision to small-minded people. I had to learn that the hard way. When I first started chasing my dream, I thought everybody around me would understand. I thought if I shared my excitement, if I poured my heart out, they'd see what I saw, but they didn't. Some laughed. Some told me to be realistic. Others said I was dreaming too big. And for a while, I let that get in my head. I started questioning myself, wondering if maybe they were right. Maybe I was reaching too high. Maybe I should just play it safe. But deep down, I knew that voice inside me was louder than their doubt. I just had to stop giving them access to my vision. When I was sleeping in abandoned buildings, I used to tell people I was going to be successful one day, that I was going to travel the world, motivate people, change lives. And they looked at me like I was crazy. They couldn't see what I saw because they didn't come from the same place inside I did. They couldn't understand how someone who had nothing could believe he was meant for everything. I realized not everyone is supposed to understand your hunger because it wasn't given to them. It was given to you. Sometimes the people closest to you can't see your vision because they've already limited their own. They're looking at life through a small lens, and when they see you trying to step outside of that, it scares them. It exposes their comfort. So instead of supporting you, they doubt you. They tell you to slow down, to take it easy, to stop dreaming so big. Not because they hate you, but because your ambition reminds them of what they gave up on. That's why I stopped explaining myself. I stopped trying to convince people who were never meant to see it. I let my work speak for me. I started showing up every day, putting in the grind, staying focused when nobody clapped. And eventually, those same people who doubted me started asking how I did it. See, once you stop seeking validation, you free up energy to actually build what you've been dreaming of. You owe nobody an explanation for your vision. Stop talking about it. Show them through the results. There comes a time in your life when you've got to make a choice. Either you keep holding on to people who keep you comfortable, or you let them go so you can grow. And I'm telling you, that's one of the hardest decisions you'll ever make. I've had to walk away from people I love, people I grew up with, people who were there when I had nothing. It hurt. But I realized something: I couldn't take everyone with me. Not everybody who starts with you is meant to finish with you. There was a point when I was trying to change my life, trying to go to the next level, but I was still hanging around the same people doing the same things. I talk about getting up early. They talk about sleeping in. I talk about reading books. They talk about watching TV. I was trying to climb, but they were holding the ladder still. And after a while, I started slipping, because you can't elevate when the people around you are comfortable staying on the ground. Every time I tried to pull away, guilt would pull me back. I kept thinking, they've been there for me. I can't just leave them behind. But what I didn't realize was staying there was costing me more than leaving ever would. I remember one night, I was sitting there thinking about my goals, and I looked around the room. Everybody was laughing, joking, talking about the same stuff we've been talking about for years, and it hit me. Nothing had changed. Same conversations, same habits, same results. And in that moment, I made a decision. I told myself, if I don't separate now, I'll be stuck here forever. So I walked away. It wasn't easy. There were lonely days. There were nights I questioned if I made the right choice. But every time I looked at how far I'd come, I knew I had. See, elevation requires separation. You can't climb higher if you're carrying dead weight. Some people aren't bad. They're just not built for where you're going. And sometimes letting go isn't betrayal, it's survival. You're not walking away from them because you're better. You're walking toward the version of yourself that's waiting on the other side. The pain of letting go is temporary, but the pain of staying stuck lasts forever. Your circle should feed your vision, not drain it. You can't keep surrounding yourself with people who make you question your purpose. You need people who bring life into your dreams, who remind you are when you start to forget. I had to learn that the hard way. For years, I was around people who were cool with talking about success, but they're never doing anything about it. They'd hype you up for a day, but when it came time to grind, they were nowhere to be found. And that kind of environment will kill your fire if you let it. I remember when I was trying to build something real with my life. I had this vision, this fire inside me, but I couldn't find many people who matched my energy. I'd call friends to talk about ideas, about growth, about discipline, and they'd change the subject to sports, gossip, or problems. Every conversation left me feeling empty, like I was pouring energy into a space that couldn't hold it. It took me a long time to realize that my vision was starving because my circle wasn't feeding it. I needed people who spoke the same language of growth, people who pushed me, who reminded me why I started when the grind got hard. When I finally found that kind of circle, everything shifted. I remember connecting with a few people who didn't care about talking. They cared about execution. They'd text me at 4 a.m., "You up?" And I knew what that meant. It wasn't about words anymore. It was about action. They didn't celebrate small talk. They celebrated progress. Being around them made me sharper, more focused. I started thinking bigger. I started demanding more from myself because they demanded more from me. That's when I realized the right people don't just support your vision, they expand it. You need people who remind you that the standard is excellence, who make you uncomfortable staying average. And when you find those people, you'll see how your energy, your mindset, and your results transform. Because greatness is contagious too, but only if you're around people who live it, breathe it, and believe in it. So build a circle that feeds your vision. Because if your circle doesn't inspire, you're not in a circle, you're in a cage. Listen to me. Your circle is either building your legacy or breaking your spirit. You better choose right. Stop settling for people who keep you comfortable and start surrounding yourself with people who keep you accountable. Iron sharpens iron. So if you're getting dull, check who's standing next to you. Your future is waiting, but it won't wait forever. Choose your circle wisely and then go all in.